Thank you for joining us tonight for a whirlwind tour of Pennsylvania's fun places. I'm Mindy Crawford, Executive Director of Preservation Pennsylvania. We are the statewide advocacy voice for historic preservation, helping people protect and preserve the historic places they love. We work to ensure that legislation, policies, and programs support the work of preserving our past. Annually, we publish the Pennsylvania at Risk list that brings statewide attention to sites that are threatened. We work collaboratively with the local groups to help change the outcome. Successes and even failures help guide our future work for the next important phase. We are a nonprofit organization and do not receive any government funding from the federal, state, or local levels, but rely on the support of individuals like you, businesses, and foundations to support our work. We offer a sincere thanks to those of you who made donations to help us cover the costs of bringing you this presentation and others. Please consider supporting our work through membership or a donation. I invite you to visit our website at preservationpa.org or follow the link that Saber will be putting in the chat box. Sign up for our e-newsletter and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I also want to thank Lincoln Highway Legacy for being our sponsor tonight. Lincoln Highway Legacy is dedicated to the promotion and preservation of the Lincoln Highway in South Central Pennsylvania. In 1913, the Lincoln Highway became America's first coast-to-coast road connecting New York to San Francisco. You can find out more about Lincoln Highway Legacy LLC at lincolnhighwaypa.com. The Lincoln Highway and Retro Roadmap are a perfect match for tonight's program. As I mentioned earlier, during the presentation, feel free to post any comments in the chat box. But if you want to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We will try to have Beth answer as many questions as possible after her presentation. Maud Betty is the pen name of Beth Lennon, creator of Retro Roadmap, an online resource that highlights cool vintage places, good eats, and retro fun. She travels the US visiting mom and pop businesses that have stood the test of time while retaining their authentic vintage charm. Sharing these discoveries with her readers and social followers, she inspires them and me to go out and visit these places and the places that are important to them before they disappear. Additionally, she publishes a series of printed retro roadmap book travel guides. Man, that is hard. And I have a few here that I have used on my travels. So definitely check out those from Beth. I'm sure she'd be happy to sell some to you. They are packed not only with historic information and travel tips about these sites, but they also include a checklist and places for visitors to add their own memories, creating a really fun keepsake and to keep track of the places that you've been to. When not on the road, you can often find her researching her next adventure, seated inside her vintage 1964 camper, or helping people get unstuck and drive towards their dreams at Just Drive Your Life. Follow her on Instagram at retro_roadmap or at Just Drive Your Life. So let's get on the road, and I will turn it over to Beth.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. I'll tell a little bit more about myself before we hit the road, because we have a lot of counties in a few minutes. So I have got my I've got my water bottle here. I have hydrated, I have practiced, and so we're ready to go. So I'm going to share my screen because I have all sorts of photos to share everybody here. So let me just get this. This is probably the most awkward part of the entire presentation. And there we go. And Saber, if you could just give me a thumbs up if you can see my present. Awesome. That's why we practice, people. And I will say it's kind of funny because it's like, I know that there are people there. I get the participants, but I wish I could see you all. But thank you so much, first of all, Preservation Pennsylvania, for inviting me here. And thank you all for showing up tonight to find out about the whirlwind tour of Pennsylvania that I'm about to take you on. So as I said, we've got 67 counties in slightly less. I've got my, as I said, I got my clock right here. His name is Paul Revere, and gonna see how many things we can get through. My goal is, and we will do this, is the 67 counties before the time is out, and we have it banked so there is some time at the end for some Q&A. So if you have any questions, as Mindy mentioned, there's a little Q&A feature, probably depending upon how you're looking at this, at the bottom of your screen. So pop your questions into that. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the chat feature if you like. I won't be able to keep track of those while I'm doing my presentation because I have a lot to cover, but if you have any things you want to share with fellow attendees, just go right ahead. I know it won't distract me. So before we get started, you may be wondering, Mindy gave me this lovely introduction, but who is Maud Betty? And basically it's funny, I'm giving you a tour of Pennsylvania, but I'm not even from Pennsylvania originally. I live here and have for the past 16 years, but I am originally from Massachusetts, where I loved driving with my driver's license in one hand and my camera in the other, and finding cool vintage places, such as this is Al's Diner in Chicopee, Mass. Now, I don't know about you, but I love it when decades of years later I go back and places have not changed. Maybe aged gracefully, as we all have, but nothing bums me out more to know that there had been a place that had survived for decades and barely changed, and you go there one day and you get a sad little, we are closed permanently sign. And I thought, oh gosh, well, what can I do about this? Of course, within the age of the internet, I can get onto Facebook and lament and say, oh, it's so sad that it's closed. And I do that. But then I thought, well, what if we could get people to go to these places maybe before they closed, so maybe they wouldn't close, or at least forestall the inevitable. So in the inimitable words of Theodore Roosevelt, said, do what you can with what you have where you are. And so I said, well, I have a driver's license, I have a camera, now I have the internet so I can share the things that I take pictures of, and that's why I created Retro Roadmap. Now, Retro Roadmap started just as a blog where I was sharing some places I've discovered. It has since turned into a website that you can search and discover new places that are old places to go to. And then luckily through the years I have been able to share the word, through the help of Preservation PA and television and writing articles. Anything I can do to get the word out about these cool vintage places, I feel like that's kind of my mission. And my goal today, or tonight rather, is to inspire you to drive to not necessarily all of these counties, but perhaps a few of them, and at least have one destination in that county that you know of that might tickle your imagination and say, oh, I want to go there. Because it's great to have that destination, and then especially because on your way to that destination, you may discover some other cool places to go to. Speaking of that, so while we do have the 67 counties that make up the state of Pennsylvania, there are a handful of them that I do not have recommendations for. And I know you're like, what? But here's the thing. Preservation means different things to different people. And for me, for Retro Roadmap, the places that get me excited are a bit like, places that have that old time, stepped back in time feeling. But when I step back in time, I'm thinking of the 20th century, maybe between the 1920s to the 1960s or 70s, a little bit more on the fringes, but those are the places that I get all kind of excited about. I used to work with a gentleman who was a Civil War reenactor, and we would joke. I joked to him, I said, well, isn't this funny? Because you like the 60s and I like the 60s, but you like the 1860s and I like the 1960s. So what you're going to see here tonight are places that kind of got me kind of like, excited to say, oh, I'm going to go here and I'm going to find some, cool vintage places from the eras that I like. So while there may be historic places in certain counties that I wasn't able to clue into, I will mention the counties that I haven't hit. So put those in the comments, or when we do the Q&A, feel free to share some of those places that you may know of and that I don't. But without further ado, because we've got a lot to cover, we're going to go through all of these counties. Now, we're not going to go on a road trip because that would be just a lot of miles on our car, but we're going to go alphabetically by county. So we're starting with Adams County. So I love Mr. Ed's Elephant Museum and Candy Emporium in Ortana. As we mentioned, the Lincoln Highway runs right through Pennsylvania, and Mr. Ed's is on the Lincoln Highway. It has been there since 1975. which may seem kind of young to certain people, including myself, but really that's almost 50 years old, people. So it is a great little place to get some candy and some nuts and see over 12,000 elephant figurines and pictures and all sorts of elephantabilia. They had a fire there a number of years ago, but they were able to salvage so many things, and people felt so bad that they had the fire that they would actually come and donate them. So perhaps you have an elephant figurine you want to donate to Mr. Ed's, go out onto the Lincoln Highway in Adams County and go to Mr. Ed's. Moving right along, Allegheny County. Allegheny County is where Pittsburgh is, and if you like Pittsburgh like I like Pittsburgh, you know that there are way too many places to choose from. Not only in the city, but also the entire state. County. I'm getting my things all screwed up. But I did think that we could all agree that Clavons in the Strip District of Pittsburgh is a wonderful retro roadmap opportunity. So Clavons started as a neighborhood apothecary in the 1920s, and it added that classic soda fountain that many drugstores had back in the day, and serving ice cream. Then it closed. It reopened in 1999, but kept that original vintage feel. You know, if you look at this picture right here, you will see, and I've got it on a nice big screen right here, you will see that it almost looks like you're stepping back in time when you walk in, and this is a picture I took just, pre-COVID. So Clavons in the Strip District of Pittsburgh. Now Armstrong County, this place is kind of fun. This is the Cadet, and I'm probably going to mangle Katanning, which I believe is where Katanning is where the Cadet restaurant is from. And the Cadet opened in 1952. Now the thing I love about this is that it is not a chain, but you can still go there and get an awesome burger. You don't have to go to a burger chain to get a good burger. The other thing, obviously, as you can see right in front of us, is the giant Muffler Man. So there's they call these in the biz, they call these muffler men, these 30-foot high gentlemen that were originally constructed to show off mufflers at muffler repair places. And since then, they've taken on a second life. And so, for example, this one here at the Cadet, the Cadet himself has a giant hamburger in his hands. So this is a fun place not only to get a burger and a photo op, but it's a great place to show on Instagram or just have that kind of fun, kitschy road trip feel. In Beaver County, I love Orem's Donuts. So this opened in the 1930s, Orem's, and you can almost see that with their exterior kind of echoes, that Art Deco, maybe a little bit of a diner quality with the stainless steel exterior. But they are known, big surprise, for their donuts. You don't have to go to an orange and pink chain to get a donut. Actually, I love going to non-chain donut places. And the thing about Orem's is that it is, their donuts are actually larger than the ones you normally get at the chains. So Orem's Donuts in Beaver Falls. They're also famous for their cinnamon rolls. Now, this is a place that probably many people, Preservation PA and Lincoln Highway lovers and just lovers of roadside places will love, and love already, is Bedford County, is the Lincoln Motor Court. So the Lincoln Motor Court is in Man's Choice. So that's just outside of Bedford, PA, which also has a slew of wonderful places to recommend it. But I'm highlighting the Lincoln Motor Court because it is the only operating motor court on the Lincoln Highway in Pennsylvania, if not on the entirety of the Lincoln Highway. And if you don't know what a motor court is, what I call these is little monopoly houses. So they are a precursor to the motel, where instead of pulling your car up and getting into a motel building, each room is its own separate house. And they're so adorable, wonderfully decorated in an old-timey vibe. And I do have to mention, last I checked, and I could be wrong, but the Lincoln Motor Court is for sale. So if you're at a point in your life where you want to make a change and make a really good investment, because they're not asking a lot of money, check it out and see if that's a place that you want to live out the second chapter of your life. Now Berks County, this is a wonderful find that I have found in Hamburg, PA. This is Adams and Bright. Now Adams and Bright is much like Clavons is an apothecary and a pharmacy, and while it does have the ability that you can still go in there and get your prescriptions filled and things compounded and things like that. They also are famous for their soda fountain. You might be able to see that's me taking a picture in the reflection here, but it's got this wonderful marble soda fountain where you can get phosphates and things to eat, and it's a wonderful place. Shameless plug, I have a Retro Roadmap YouTube page, and we did an interview with the woman who owns the place, Adams and Bright, and did a little tour of Hamburg. So if you go to the Retro Roadmap YouTube page, you can see not just the soda fountain, but the whole rest of the building, which is adorable. So that's in Berks County. Now in Blair County, this is one of the things I love about doing presentations like this, is that I discover things about Pennsylvania and things and areas that I didn't even know existed. And so I was so delighted to find out about Lakemont Park. Now Lakemont Park is in Altoona, and it houses the world's oldest surviving roller coaster. It's called the Leap the Dips, and it leaps and it dips. It's a national historic landmark. The park itself opened in 1894, and it is a trolley park, one of only 13 trolley parks still operating in the U.S., and it is the 8th oldest amusement park in the United States. And then the fun thing is, with many of these places, is you go maybe just to see the Leap the Dips, but then you're going to find other cool historic rides to go on as well. Now I have a soft spot for a number of things, and one of the things that I love is discovering old movie theaters and theaters in downtowns, and this is in Bradford County. This is the Sayre Theater in Sayre. Now it was built in 1914, and they show first-run movies. However, with the openings and closings with COVID, they are still temporarily closed, but I thought this was so creative. They are selling popcorn. They are selling bags and boxes of popcorn to help keep afloat. So I mention that just because some of these places I may speak of as if they are 100% open right away, but given the time that we're living in, there's a little bit of wiggle room as far as hours and when people are open and how they're open. So I recommend when you go on your trips to just make sure you call beforehand to make sure they're open so you're not disappointed. I should take my own advice because I haven't done that sometimes, and it's kind of a bummer. But anyhow, moving right along, again, Bucks County, you know it, you love it, Signs 5 and 10. Now I have raved about this place ever since anybody would listen to me. And because the first time I saw that gleaming red exterior, I thought, that can't be a 5 and 10 still. That probably is like an antiques co-op. No, people. It was opened in 1912. It's still family owned and operated. And when you walk in, it's like walking back in time. Not only is it a 5 and 10 where it has all those things that you would buy, at Woolworths or the little places that you would go when you were growing up. They've got hairnets, they've got penny candy, they've got candles, they've got all sorts of dish towels, anything you could need. And they have this wonderful lunch counter where you can get a cheeseburger, you can get a sandwich, an ice cream, daily specials. They even have, I think this is so charming, they have mugs hanging up that run all along the cross, and that's all for all the locals. All the locals have their own mugs there. I think that's a goal of mine, to get a Retro Roadmap mug up there someday. So that is Signs 5 and 10 in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. Now in Butler County, we have the Starlight Drive-In Movie Theater. Now the neat thing is about the Starlight is it's open since 1958, and it is one of 28 drive-in movie theaters in Pennsylvania. Now the cool thing is about that is that Pennsylvania and New York are tied for first place. I'm giving the first place to PA because that's us, all right? Even though they both have 28, but that is the number one amount of drive-in movie theaters open in any state. So the the Starlight Drive-In in Butler is one of just 28 in the state. So you could do that all summer. You could find out where the other 27 are. I'll give you a clue. I'm going to show you another one further on alphabetically. But that might be a fun summer thing to do, to say, I'm going to go to every single drive-in movie theater in Pennsylvania. So in Butler County, you can go to the Starlight Drive-In. Now, I don't often send people to museums unless they're kind of, they've got something that sparked my interest. And I will say this, I am fascinated by on so many levels the Johnstown flood experience, all that happened there, and the Johnstown Flood Museum. So here in Cambria County, we've got the Johnstown Flood Museum, not only an interesting museum in its own right, but it is also housed in a historic building. It used to be the Cambria Public Library, historic Carnegie Library built in 1890-91, and it's also part of the downtown Johnstown Historic District. I love that phrase, historic district, because you know what that means? That means if you find one place to go to, like for example, the history, the museum right here, that like, you know, that's your destination, but then you've got a little district that you can go and explore, and I bet you'll find some other cool places to go to. So that's Cambria County, Johnstown Flood. All right, here's the first one I got nothing on, so you might want to put something in the chat or maybe in the Q&A we can talk about later. Cameron County. Couldn't find anything retro roadmap worthy there, but maybe you know better than I do. Or if you don't, maybe that's a good excuse for us all to drive out to Cameron County and see what we can find. But moving along, Carbon County. So this is a place that I love. It's kind of off the beaten path. This is the Bowmanstown Diner, and I was thinking of that old, I'm going to date myself totally, and I don't know how many will remember this reference, but it was like a Certs commercial where they have two mints in one, because this is two diners in one. Yes, on the front side is a historic 1952 Federo built diner, and if you're a diner person, you know that diners are built in factories by certain manufacturers. So there's a 1952 Federo and a 1960 Silk City. Both of them were built in New Jersey, obviously at different times, and then they were trucked out to wherever they ended up. So this is in Bowmanstown in Carbon County. I love them. They have hearty breakfasts, and they serve their breakfast on those original diner plates that have the little, flowers around them. And it's just so fun to also go see how the different styles of the diners had changed from 1952 to 1960. So that's in Carbon County. Moving along, which we will be doing a lot of because we're only on 14 and we got 67 to go. Again, whirlwind. I think I'm gonna, actually this one, if you can see the thing, those are people in a boat, got me thirsty. So this is Penn's Cave in Center Hall in Center County. Now this is America's only all-water cavern tour. So the neat thing is, here in Pennsylvania, we have a lot of these cool kind of old show caves and caverns that you can go into, but this one in Center Hall is the only one that's a boat ride. And I find these places fascinating because if you think about it, all of the other places that I'm telling you about today are on the top level of, like, the top crust of the earth, and here in Pennsylvania, we get to go underneath the crust of the earth and go see what's on the other side. So I love that, Penn's Cave and Center Hall, and go on the boat ride. Yep, I had to put this in here. Sorry, every other place in Chester County where I live, plenty of places to choose from, but this is the classic colonial theater here in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. I'm so excited. I'm stumbling on my words because this is just down the street from me, and honestly, this vintage theater is what made me move to Pennsylvania. And I love that this shows the power of preservation. It shows the power of people getting together and banding together to save something that they love, because the Colonial was built in 1902, and it had its ups, it had its downs, it had its fame as being in the 1958 movie The Blob, and then of course it had a decline when many downtown movie theaters did. But then a scrappy bunch of locals got together and said, no, we want to save this theater. And they did. They brought it back to its former glory and then some. And then when I saw it, I thought, well, gosh, if the people in this town care so much about that place, those are my kind of people. So we moved from out of state. We moved from out of state to Pennsylvania. We bought a house. We spend our money here. So it's one of those things you don't realize sometimes, the ripple effect that these preservation projects can have. Even to this day, this picture only shows the front of the original marquee of the Colonial that you'll see now. Just off on the side is a historic bank building that the Colonial has since now also moved into and expanded into, saving yet another historic building in downtown Phoenixville. All right. Now, this is kind of a silly place, but I just had to include it because it's so unusual. And it has got such that vintage vibe, because this is in Clarion County. This is the Penn Woods Airstream Park. Now, if you've ever seen any kind of shiny vintage campers that are kind of like, you know, domed looking, really modern looking, but back in the day, those are Airstream trailers. Now, there are all sorts of vintage campers, but Airstreams are probably the most iconic and well recognized. And the Penn Woods Airstream Park is a place where anybody who's got a vintage Airstream camper will go and camp out in the summer. And I love this because it's a way to see, again, that kind of history of how these campers that are all one brand have changed throughout the years. So even if you don't own an Airstream, you can go there, and I'm sure people can show you their campers. And I just love that idea of the one place where you can go and see so many of these. So that's the Penn Woods Airstream Park in Clarion County. Now, in Clearfield County, this is kind of silly, but this is the kind of thing I do on a road trip. I try to avoid the chains at all costs. So even if I'm going through a little town like Dubois, I will seek out the places that are not the chains. So I'm talking right here about Shankle's Pharmacy. You know, I may not need to get a prescription filled, right, because I'm away from home. However, you know, if I need some Kleenex or some Tums maybe from all the stuff I've been eating, I will so much rather go to an independent pharmacy, and especially one that has a cool vintage sign on the front. Going in there and saying, I love your sign and this is why I stopped here, reminds people of the value of that sign. So maybe they don't end up taking it down. If it breaks, maybe they get it fixed instead. So Shankle's opened in 1923. Independent pharmacies, gotta love them. As I mentioned, big fan of the historic theater. This is in Clinton County. This is the Roxy Theater in Lock Haven. Not to be confused with the Roxy in Northampton that I did a video of. That place is gorgeous as well. You can find that on the YouTube channel. I feel like I'm doing a little sidebar here. But the Roxy was built in 1924 and was called the Dreamland. Now it is a multi-screen, but it still has that kind of iconic look on the outside. And as we know, when people can pretty much watch a movie at this point on their camera or their phone, I'm holding up my invisible phone, it's wonderful to see people still going to the movies in classical movie houses like this. Now, breathe deeply, because this place is a gem. This is one of my finds that a friend of mine gave me an idea of where it was, but I had to go hunting, because this is the White Horse Grill in Berwick in Columbia County, and it is hidden in a residential area. It's not on the main drag, but when you see it, you can imagine yourself in the 1940s there. It was opened in 1941 during the war, when they were building tanks and jeeps and things in the Berwick area, and this place was hopping from day to night with all sorts of meals being served here. When you go in, it does look like you've stepped back in time. Now, when you go in nowadays, you have to get there a very narrow window of time, because they're only open from early in the morning till 11 o'clock in the morning. They only do breakfast, and it's wonderful. It's like a mother, daughter, and grandmother operation, cash only, only open till 11. You gotta admire some of these old school places that are saying, you know what, this is how we are, and if you like it, great, and if not, you can go someplace else. But seriously, the White Horse Grill, if you go onto retroroadmap.com and you look for them, I have some pictures of the interior that you can see, but this place is a great destination to get to. Get up early, go to breakfast there, and then you're already in Columbia County, and then you can go do some exploring around there. Now, Crawford County, I don't know if Mindy Crawford is related to the people in Crawford County, but Conneaut Lake Park is a place that I would go in a heartbeat. Now, again, because of COVID and things changing by the moment, I recommend that you call or you check their websites and things to make sure things are open the way you want before you drive out there. It opened in 1892, and it's on the shores of Pennsylvania's largest natural glacier lake. The thing I love about them is that while they do have some of the modern rides, they also have plenty of the classic rides, including this historic carousel that was installed in 1910. I am a huge fan of vintage carousels. I don't know if Craig Nye, longtime Retro Road Mapper, tuned in tonight, but he and I love sharing vintage carousel info. And I'm going to give him a shout out too, even if he's not here, because he's the one who hipped me to this place. Now, again, checking to make sure they're open before you call, because COVID has changed some hours. This is Eccles in Mechanicsburg. This place is so adorable. It was opened in 1879 as a pharmacy. A lot of these places started as pharmacies, and now it is a soda fountain and a lunch counter. So you can go there and have something sweet or something, savory to eat. And the thing I love about all of these places that I say have that authentic vintage charm, it's not just me who appreciates it, or people who are, taking pictures that they think will look good as a backdrop on their Instagram. It's Hollywood people. People from Hollywood realize the value of these old school backdrops that they would have to recreate. Well, they already exist here in the real world. And I bring up Hollywood because if you ever have seen the movie Girl Interrupted, with Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie, I think it came out in like the 90s, there is an iconic scene that was filmed in that movie. It was filmed in Eccles. And how fun is that to be like, you can actually sit at the same table and you can see pictures from that. So that's Eccles in Mechanicsburg. Now, I do have a soft spot for diners, so I'm going to send you to a bunch of them because, again, you don't see them that much anymore, and especially ones that have not been kind of redone, past the point of seeing their original charm. Now, speaking of original charm, Dauphin County, this is the High Spire Diner, and I bet if I had sepia toned this picture, you wouldn't have been able to really tell unless you looked really closely for some clues that this was a current photograph, because the High Spire Diner is just total old school on the outside and in. I just love this so much. This is built in 1952, another Silk City diner, Silk City, Paterson, New Jersey. I'm not going to get too diner geeky on you, but I'll give you a tip. Not all Silk City diners have this, but some of them do. If you look at this picture, where the counter stools are and the tile underneath the counter, you'll see like a diamond pattern in the tiles. Oftentimes when you see that, that means it's a Silk City diner. Great little place, shiny on the outside, delicious on the inside. Now, as you noticed, I do tend to talk a lot about places that you eat. And that is because not only am I led by my stomach, but if you think about it, eateries tend to be some of the most popular places that people go on a daily basis, and that's why they're often able to survive the decades. Hotels and motels are places that people would stay occasionally, as an event or on vacation, but it's not a place that you show up regularly to. So I love to send people to the kind of old school places to eat. And especially to get some regional food. Like, for example, this is the Thunderbird. So this is the Thunderbird. It's in Broomall, and it's in Delaware County. So Delaware County, or Delco as we like to call it, just outside of Philadelphia County. And you'll see on their sign it says steaks. Well, this is not a steaks house like a Steaks, like a Ruth Chris or a Ken's. This is Philly cheesesteak country. So this is cheesesteaks. This is pizza steaks. It's chopped up, whiz wit, the whole deal. And the neat thing is too, they even say it's hoagies on the bar, so you know that they get steaks and they get hoagies. And they also have pizza. I'll clue you into this. The pizza there is so interesting because in this area of Delaware County, they have what they call Boston style pizza, made in little pans. I find it delicious because I am from Boston, and we just call that kind of pizza at home. So that's the original Thunderbird, opened in 1956. Check it out. The Apollo Theater. This is not, one night at the Apollo. That's in Harlem. But this is in Elk County. This is in St. Mary's. Opened in 1928. Look at that giant marquee. I mean, again, kind of making a statement as to what's going on there. I will admit, this is in Elk County. I didn't find a lot of other things in Elk County besides the Apollo. So I suggest that you and I head out there and maybe we can find some things that are hidden, in plain sight. Yeah, it's a diner again, but how fun is this? This is in Erie County. It's in Erie, PA, home of the Wonders, or the Oneaters, if you're a big fan of that thing you do, which I am. So the Lawrence Park Diner, do you notice how they spell it on the sign? Kind of different, huh? Erie, PA area is the only place where there's a handful of diners that instead of spelling diner with an ER, they spell it with an OR. Go figure, but to me that makes it just the more appealing to figure out, go there, get your picture taken in the diner, in front of the diner. This is, again, another Silk City diner, built in 1948, so a little bit older than some of the ones that we've seen. And just a cool little place to go have lunch and then, explore the area. Now, this is Fayette County, and I'm sure because we have so many, preservation-minded people here, this is probably the most highfalutin of historic preservation places that I will talk about during this presentation. This is, of course, Frank Lloyd Wright Falling Water, built in the 1930s, now actually a World Heritage Site. So hello, Pennsylvania, we have a World Heritage Site that's also early mid-century stuff going on. So I love the fact that here in PA, we've got falling water for putting us on the Frank Lloyd Wright map. Also just up the street is Kentuck Knob. I believe that's also in Fayette County. Also over here, closer to us in the Philly area, we've got the Beth Shalom Temple. So we're representing here as far as World Heritage Sites. So I just love that. I have a bit of a mid-century modern vibe often, so this is one of the places I'd love to show off to my Palm Springs friends. All right, moving along, Forest County. You see where it is? I got nothing. Anybody? Forest County? Put it in the comments. Maybe tell me about it afterwards in the Q&A. And I look forward to heading out there. Now, again, you find out about places from research, but then people say, they like to give you tips. This is what I'm doing for the next, I better step it up. Next 20 minutes or so, I will be sharing with you places that get me excited. And a retro road mapper told me about not only just downtown Chambersburg in general, but the Olympia Candy Kitchen. Olympia Candy Kitchen has been in Franklin County, Chambersburg, since 1903. Still family owned and operated, and they've got all sorts of classic chocolates, but they're also getting into the modern kind of flavors. So right now I saw that they are hawking their chocolate-covered smoked bacon. So what a fun idea to be like, hey, it's a beautiful day. Let's drive out to Chambersburg, walk around, and eat some chocolate-covered bacon. I got nothing. Fulton County, help me out here, people. Oop. And there we go. And this is a funny thing that I'm going to send you to the post office. I don't know, maybe I'm always looking for themes of what you could do for a road trip. And when I thought of this one, I was just smitten. So here in Greene County, this is the Masontown Post Office in Masontown. Now the thing I love about this is it's not just the building I'm sending you to, because this building was built in 1939 with Federal Treasury Department funds. So it was part of the rebuilding through the Great Recession that many of these federal buildings were built, but also on the inside that there was a lot of artwork going on, that they got artists and writers and creative people, gave them things to do during this dark time. And inside this historic building is a New Deal mural. So the New Deal mural, I'll probably have to inhale a couple of times because it's got a long title. It's called General Lafayette is welcomed at Friendship Hill by Mr. and Mrs. Albert Gallatin on May 27, 1825. So I think it would be so much fun to there's actually not my website, there's a great website if you Google WPA art that somebody has gone through, a group has gone through and really loved up that era of artwork and historic buildings, to just drive around Pennsylvania and see what historic post offices you can get to and what artwork is on the inside. So that's in Greene County, the Masontown Post Office. Now again, I don't necessarily always send people to museums. I like the fact that so many of the places that I send you, retro roadmap worthy, are like living history. They're not in museums, but this one was kind of fun. So this is the Swigert Museum in Huntingdon County. It's America's oldest antique automobile museum, which is fascinating to any road tripper or drive your lifer like myself. But in case the kiddos that you have might not be so interested in old-timey cars, this is the thing that appealed to me about this place and just gave me a giggle, was they have one corner devoted to historic vintage Fisher-Price toys, including classics such as the Snoopy Sniffer and the Corn Popper Push toy. So, one era can look at the cars from the 50s and 60s and before, and another era can see how kiddos back in the day played and maybe be inspired to, bring out some of those old toys themselves. Now, again, this is Indiana County, not Gary, Indiana, but Indiana County in PA, the Jimmy Stewart Museum. Now, famous Jimmy Stewart, I mentioned Hollywood earlier. Mary, we all know who Jimmy Stewart is. There's a whole museum devoted to him, and it is in the Indiana Public Library, which is also a historic building itself. So not only can you go there and appreciate the historic library, heck, maybe even make a road trip out of going to see all the historic libraries in Pennsylvania. But you can also go and see Jimmy Stewart films and find out more about the history of that famous movie actor. So Jefferson County, I know you're all thinking, Puxatawny Phil, whatever. No. So I might have mentioned earlier that I have a soft spot for places that are, of course, old school places that have retained their vintage charm. But trust me, I also see the importance of new places with an old heart. And that's why in Jefferson County, I recommend Pink Flamingo's Vintage. So this place is so cute. It is a vintage clothing store. Now, it just opened up in 2019, but the thing I love about this is that this is a way to get the younger generations interested in history through fashion. They have a great selection. They have all sorts of eras of clothing to choose from. The kids look adorable in their little get-ups and everything. And the thing I love too is that this is in the downtown area in Brookville, PA. And the neat thing is that like you put this in here and you think of this as a destination, but then it's in a downtown. So you go there for the destination, but while you're there, you're also going to walk around and see all the other places. So that is the Pink Flamingo Vintage. I love myself some Pink Flamingos. Got them right back here in my studio, and I love me some vintage clothing. Juniata County. I thought for sure I would have a retro roadmap worthy place here. Again, I don't know why. I got nothing. I wish I could chat with you all in the chat. So if you've got something there, let me know. And then we're going to keep on moving along. So check this out. So this is Lackawanna County. This is in Scranton, the Radisson Lackawanna Train Station Hotel. Kind of self-explanatory. Used to be a train station. Now it's a hotel. The thing I love about this is next week, talking about the younger generation, my niece who just graduated high school, she said she wanted to go to Scranton as a graduation gift. Now, I love this because the reason she wants to go to Scranton is because the TV show The Office was filmed there or was based there, and she wants to go see places that she heard of on this TV show. And I thought, well, I love the fact that there are different ways that you can get people to get into preservation and, discovering interesting things in old towns. So next week when we go to Scranton, she and I are staying at this adaptive reuse, as we like to say, this adaptive reuse building. And I hope to, cross fingers everybody, I hope to get her interested in the fact that old buildings aren't just old and they should be torn down, but old buildings can be made into, are beautiful, can be made into something. So I'll tell you how that goes. Speaking of new places with an old heart, total complete shopping destination for Maud Betty, 100% Lancaster County, is the 300 block of North Queen Street in Lancaster. Total great number, such great shop owners there. We've got my Aunt Debbie. She's not my aunt, she's all of our aunts. This is her outside of her place where she upcycles and recycles vintage finds. We've got the Scarlet Willow, Telltale Dress, Space, Madcap and Company, Building Character, and Heritage Press Museum. That's a letterpress museum. All of this, you park your car on the 300 block of North Queen Street, and you can just walk to all these places and see what people are doing to keep vintage architecture alive and also vintage things. They're also like the nicest people who, I don't know, they're just wicked nice, as we would say up in Massachusetts. Now, I know that this looks very similar. This may look like the Lackawanna train station with its classical columns in the front. This is in Lawrence County. This is the Scottish Rite Cathedral in Newcastle, PA. They use it now as it used to be a Masonic Hall built in 1924, it's now an auditorium and banquet facility. And anytime I am traveling, I love to check out and see if there's any of these kind of old classic buildings left in downtown. So if you're in Lawrence County, Newcastle, PA, check that one out. On the other hand, I also love to find tiny little places that are hidden in residential areas. So here in Lebanon County, this is Shuey's Pretzels in Lebanon, family owned and operated. It's this tiny little pink brick house. I don't know if you can see the fact that the bricks here, I gotta get a better picture, but the picture, like the bricks are this nice light pink, and they make pretzels every day. When they run out of the pretzels, they close for the day, and then they get up early in the morning and make the pretzels for the next day. It's family owned and operated, has been around for decades, and these giganto pretzels that you see me so excited to have, they make those just on the weekends. I love bringing those as like a hostess gift to a party, and that's Shuey's Pretzels. Again, not on the main drag in Lebanon. It's kind of like off the beaten path, but well worth finding. So remember how earlier I was telling you about drive-in movie theaters and how we have 28 of them here in Pennsylvania? Well, we also have a claim to fame because Shankweiler's, this is Lehigh County, we're in Orfield, and Shankweiler's Drive-In Movie Theater is the oldest operating drive-in movie theater in, I was going to say, yeah, in the world, in the U.S. and in the world. It opened in 1934, and it was the only second drive-in movie theater to open. The first drive-in movie theater opened a few years before that in Camden, New Jersey. It is no longer there. New Jersey, actually, even for the fact that it is the place where drive-in movie theaters existed or were invented, only has one drive-in movie theater. So the fact that we here in PA have 28, pretty good. What have we got here? Oh, yeah, this one. So this is kind of a funny slide because you're probably like, what on earth is she showing me? Well, this is up in Northeast PA, or as I always call it, NEPA, Luzerne County. This is what they call pizza up there. So this is at my very favorite place to get what I call NEPA pizza. This is a tray of cuts. So they call a whole pizza a tray, and instead of a slice, you get cuts. And this is at the Victory Pig Barbecue. Barbecue, not so much, but OMG, their pizza is divine. They've been open since the 50s. It's such a quirky place. I think it's like cash only, only open 3 days a week. You can do takeout and like flash your lights outside and they'll bring it out to, or you can go inside. This is a place I'm actually excited to take my niece next week to show her old school pizza. But if you ever want, this could be a thing. You can go and try all the different kind of pizzas in Pennsylvania because there's so many. So this is Victory Pig in Wyoming, PA. Plankenhorns. So again, when you go shopping, like you're in it, like has anybody been able to find any place on the planet besides Staples to go get office supplies? It's so difficult to just find a mom and pop shop to get your pencils and what have you. But Plankenhorns, this is up in Lackawanna County, and this is in Williamsport. Now this not necessarily this building, but this business has been around for over 122 years. Still going strong. I believe it has new owners, but I would have stopped anyway just to get a picture of that that lovely sign that you don't see signs like that anymore. So when you're going through Williamsport, I don't know, you gotta buy some pencils, you need a notebook. Doesn't everybody always need a pencil and notebook? Just go there, buy stuff there, and keep the place alive. Because we can take pictures all we want, but really the only way they survive as a business is if we spend our money there. So another historic movie theater. This is in McKean County in Bradford on Main Street. And the thing I love about this not only is the fact that it's a movie house like this, but also it's in the Hooker Fulton building, which is an Art Deco masterpiece out there, because it's in McKean County. And I just love the fact that the building has been able to survive all these decades because it's got wonderful architectural details that you don't see anymore, and also the fact that people go there because it's a theater. So that to me is like a total win-win that building has survived since the 1930s. Also, if you're interested, Bradford is home to Zippo lighters. What else we got here? Oh, now this is kind of a silly one, but I'm including it anyway because I have a soft spot for vintage bowling alleys. So this is in Mercer County. This is Thornton Hall Bowling Lanes, opened in 1949. And the thing that slays me about this place is that the bowling alleys are on the second level, right? So they're on the second floor. Can you imagine what it must be like to have the office on the first floor where you've got people bowling right above you all the time? It's like a permanent thunderstorm, So this was built in 1949. expanded in the 1960s. Somebody recently bought it and is going to kind of love it up and bring it back to its original vintage charm. Looks totally old school inside, and I love the fact that there are still bowling alleys that exist that have the old school features, unlike some of these new ones that try to make themselves look vintage. It's like, this is like the original, the OG. Another place that I probably would have gone to just to take a picture of the exterior, because I'm goofy like that, is here in Mifflin County. This is the Lascaris restaurant in Lewiston. So they've got this wonderful restaurant exterior. They're famous for their hot dogs and their rice pudding, though not together. You can have hot dogs and you can have rice pudding. Just don't put them together, okay? They're right around the corner from the Embassy Theater. Embassy's got an amazing marquee. Sadly, the building itself, like the business, is closed. But this is another one of those opportunities to say, hey, Lascaris restaurant, let's go out there, get a hot dog, park the car, and walk around and see what else you can discover in Mifflin County. Monroe County. Now, I probably should have included a much better picture than this, but this place is such a gem, not only for the outside, but for the inside. This is Holly Ross Pottery in Cresco in the what do you call it, the Poconos, and they make their own pottery there. They've done this for decades, and also it is a warehouse pretty much filled with fiesta ware and Polish pottery and all sorts of like dishes and things like that. So you don't have to go to West Virginia to get your fiesta ware. You can go to Holly Ross right there in the Poconos. They also have a nice little picnic area and trails that you can walk in the back. So bring a picnic lunch. I don't know, buy plates there and then eat off the plates. I don't know, but it's a really neat little old school destination to go to in the Poconos. Speaking of old school, now Montgomery County is one of the 4 counties that I have in my Retro Roadmap Philadelphia Suburbs book, and I was kind of hard pressed as to what to choose for Montco, but I had to give it up for Lou's Sandwiches in Norristown. Because as you can see from this picture, you walk there, and it's like step back in time, not only visually, but also taste bud wise, because Lou's is famous for this sandwich called the Zepp, and it's like a riff on a hoagie, and you just have to go in there and try it. I'm looking at the camera, I'm looking at the clock, and I realized I'm not talking fast enough, so I'm gonna quickly go through some of these, but don't worry, we're gonna get to the end. It's good. All right, we've got Biters department store in Danville, total old school place. It's like like the Woolworths thing. I don't think they have parakeets and stuff, but you can get candles and old school stuff and new school stuff. It's also in a downtown area, so park yourself, walk around. What else have we got? Oh, I love this place. This is the Daisy restaurant in Wind Gap, PA. Started as a seasonal ice cream stand in 1958. Has obviously been renovated. Doesn't this totally look like 70s with that like fake Tiffany stuff and all the brown? But I just even love the fact that look is now kind of a vintage thing. Delicious burgers, and they have, at least the last time I checked, a working phone booth outside in the front. Yeah, how's about that? This place is such a gem. I don't even know if you can see it. See that little narrow place between those 2 buildings? It's called the Squeeze In. They literally squeezed in this little hot dog place, okay? It's a little bit close for comfort, especially now with the post-COVID. You might not be so excited about getting that close to people when you go in there, because it's only like a little counter and 6 stools, but you can get hot dogs from the window because the grill is right there in the window. They also have delicious butter beans as well. What else? If you don't want to get near other people at all, or you just want to get some great car hop service, Erie County, this is the Red Rabbit in Duncannon. It's been open since the 1950s, as many of these places are. Only open a couple of days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, cash only, all that kind of old school, things. But you go up, you flash your lights, get yourself a bunny burger, not made with bunnies, it's a hamburger, a bunny burger, and ask them to put bunny dust on your fries. Bunny dust is their special seasoning that makes the fries all delicious. So that's the Red Rabbit in Duncannon, PA. Now, Philadelphia County is my Philadelphia book. So I had a whole book to choose from, but I realized one of the iconic places that I would send people would be to the Wanamaker Organ. So the Wanamaker Organ is in downtown Philly. Used to be the Wanamaker, listen to me, the Wanamaker department store. Now it is a Macy's, but Macy's has smartly realized what they have here. They've got the largest pipe organ in the world. It is played daily at noon. They also have they have a Christmas light show, a holiday light show there. And the last time I checked, you can also sign up and do tours. We can go behind the scenes and check out that. If you're into giant pipe organs, there's also one in Atlantic City at Boardwalk Hall. That also, these two kind of rival themselves as which one's the biggest in the world. But that one's in Philadelphia County. Oh my God, this is when I'm gonna get all, like, this is one of my favorite diners. It's in Pike County, the Village Diner in Milford, PA. The reason I love this, it's not a Silk City, it's a Mountain View. Owner Maria Walls inherited this from her parents. She keeps the place going. It is so filled with love and delightful food. She keeps this place pristine. They plant flowers in the front. They keep their neon sign in wonderful condition. And I love the fact that this is a place that is fighting for the business of people coming off of the highway. So anytime you're in Milford, PA, do not go to the places that are just off of the exit. Blow past them and go to the Village Diner. Remember I was talking about vintage campers? So if you want to experiment with the vintage camper lifestyle and not really buy one, which is maybe something I should have done before I bought my vintage camper, here in Potter County, there's the Classics Vintage RV Park. It's in Roulette, and it's in part of the Allegheny River Campground. You can actually rent a vintage camper and stay there for a couple of days, however long you like, and you don't have to take it with you when you're done. I love the fact that they have one called the Betty, and so that's the one I would stay in. Moving right along, and remember I talked about the fact that you could do a pizza tour? Well, here's one, because this is up in Schuylkill County. This is the Blue Tavern Restaurant in Pottsville. I immediately was attracted to this place because their wonderful sign on the exterior that they have kept in really good shape, but also because they were opened in the 40s, and they were allegedly the place that introduced pizza to this region of PA. So you can go in and, again, kind of taste history and see what it tastes like in different places. And also, of course, take a picture of that glorious sign. Speaking of signs, this is not a Texaco. This is Cruiser's Cafe in Pleasant Mills in Snyder County, and this is an adorable little luncheonette that was made out of an old Texaco station. It's this tiny little place. It's got a couple of booths, got a place to sit on the counter, and it's a wonderful place to cruise to. Where else we got? Oh, here's another one of those ones that I was thinking, like if you want to go on a post office tour, you could go to Somerset County and check out their post office. They have a mural of a farm scene on the inside, and also just the fact that this was built around the same time as that other one. And notice how this is a lot more kind of modern-y than that kind of more classical one that we saw earlier. So you can, again, you could probably write a paper about compare and contrast the architecture of the different post offices in Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's how I want to spend my summer. It is. Eaglesmere. So this is in Sullivan County. Eaglesmere is an adorable place to go regardless, but if you want a destination to go to, I recommend the Eaglesmere Auto Museum. It's a collection of American-made cars and trucks from the 1950s and 60s. All right, Susquehanna County. I think this is the last one that I don't have anything with, but if you got anything, put it in the comments, let me know afterwards. Okay, so some of you may remember that I waxed rhapsodic about the Wellsboro Diner in Wellsboro in Tioga County, so you know that that place always has a place in my heart. But downtown Wellsboro is a place that you can definitely go, not only park and eat at the diner and walk around and shop, but then after that's all done, you can stay in a historic hotel, which is the Penn Wells. Penn Wells was built in 1869, so yeah, it's kind of outside of that 20s to 60s window that I like, but I loves me some historic hotels, and it's wonderful. It's been renovated, and it's got a really interesting story about an American flag that is hanging in their lobby. So when you go there, stay there and find out about their American flag. Isn't this gorgeous? OMG, people. I mean, look at that. This is in Union County, the Campus Theater in Lewisburg. 1941, which is interesting because this is kind of Art Deco-y, but a little bit later on the Deco side. But who just does not love that exterior, and the interior is as delightful. Single screen movie theater. They also do events. Check that out whenever you're in Lewisburg. Now, here's an interesting thing. Remember I was talking about, kids getting into history, and history's got to look fashion-wise, and history's got to taste depending upon your pizzas and things like that. Well, I think history has a sound, and to me, that is antique music boxes and things like that. So this is in Venango County. This is the DeBent's Antique Music World in Franklin, PA. This is houses a collection of more than 100 antique mechanical musical instruments dating from the mid-1880s mid-1800s to the 1940s. So think play your pianos, Nickelodeons. To me, that's what history sounds like. Oops, I was wrong. Warren County, my bad. Didn't have anything from there, but if you do, either put it in the comments, we can talk about it afterwards, or maybe we just all drive out there and see what we can find. Washington County, really close to the Pittsburgh area. Shorty's Lunch. Shorty's Lunch is an adorable place. Again, famous for its hot dogs. Hot dogs tend to be a thing. And I just love the fact that it's got this Coca-Cola sign that looks modern to some of us, but to other people that looks so old school, it's not even funny. This place has been open since the 1930s. Obviously, the sign is a lot newer than that, but still the sign is vintage itself. Now, I just had to put this in because it's just silly architecture, people. We're in the Poconos. This is in Wayne County. This is the Alpine Wurst and Meat House. No, it's not the worst. It could be the best. And this is me when I'm doing a bit of my, Fozzie Bear humor or whatever. So this is a place, looks like a chalet. I mean, don't you love looking at this unusual architecture when you're taking a road trip? It opened in 1977, which you may think is recent, but actually it's getting up there. Lincoln Highway Experience in Latrobe is in Westmoreland County. I talked about the Lincoln Highway earlier. We have our wonderful, gracious friends who have allowed this experience to happen tonight. So if you want to learn more about the Lincoln Highway out there, go to this tells you the story of the Lincoln Highway in Latrobe. Okay, we're almost there. No, we're going a few moments over. Wyoming County, real quick. You got a vintage post office, or you've got the Dietrich Theater to choose from. So if you like your diner, you've got your theaters or your post offices, you're all set. And then lastly, you knew it, York County, we made it, the Shoe House, Hallam, or they're now calling it York, Hallam, PA, York, the Shoe House, built in 1948 for Mahlon Haynes, a total iconic calendar-worthy place, and it's the only one in the world. So go PA. We did a video there for Retro Roadmap. You can go there. You can take turns. You can get tours, and you can get ice cream in the Soul. So there's that. And we have made it, people. I know I'm a few minutes over, but I think I did pretty well. So York County, 67. We made them all. I hope this inspired you. I hope this gave you a little pinpoint in almost all of these 67 counties to go and get in your car and drive to this place, but not only just drive to some of these places, but see what you discover along the way here in PA. So that's what I call just drive your life. Pick a destination you're excited to get to and drive there and enjoy the journey. So, yep, this is what we have. So thank you so much, everybody. As Sabra and Mindy mentioned, I'm on retroroadmap.com, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. That was great. I did spend a summer giving tours at the Shoe House and making milkshakes.
That's
and
awesome.
Scooping ice cream is really hard work.
I used to be an ice cream scooper, so I totally know what you mean. Yeah. All right, let me do this.
So we don't have any questions yet in the Q&A, but we have a ton of comments and lots of suggestions for you of places to go. So we'll make sure you get copies of these comments.
I appreciate that. And I love to get these stories. I mean, that's the great thing about these places is they evoke memories and stories, and thank you for putting in those things. Oh yeah, I'm just scrolling through here.
Yeah, I just discovered the Midway Drive-In in Juniata County because I was up there for another reason, and someone mentioned it's under new ownership, and they're really trying to make a go of it, and it's just adorable.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And that's what I love about this is kind of like what I call the hive mind. Like I missed it, but maybe it wasn't open or that, and you add your bit and I add my bit. All right.
Oh, and I have one for you for Fulton County too. This is on the Lincoln Highway, Johnny's Motel and Diner.
Ooh.
It's very cool.
Okay, very cool. That's good to know. I can fill in some gaps. Now somebody is saying it would not you know what, Jonathan, ask your what? Yeah, exactly. Put it right in there.
Yeah. Put it in the chat. That's fine.
Yep. And I will say, Stephanie, it's been a really big shoe tonight. Yeah. And if you've seen
Waka.
my video of the Shoe House, I did the entry. I was trying to do my own Ed Sullivan. I just cracked myself up, but thank you. I'm glad somebody else thought it was a really big shoe. But yeah.
I will share a little story with you. I'm not going to give any names or talk about the whole thing, but I had a writer contact me about a novel that he was working on based on the Shankweiler Drive-In movie theater, and about trying to save it. So, because I assume it's still for sale, or has it sold?
I think it's still for sale. I meant to mention that. But yeah, those things can change in a heartbeat. But I'm really hoping that somebody who sees the value, like the Mahoning Drive-In has got such like a champion, like they've got a core group of people who are doing such fun and unusual programming there that they've really brought that place back to life. So I hope that Shankweilers get somebody whose heart is in it and can make a go of it. Especially because honestly, the Shankweilers is also geographically, it's the closest drive-in movie theater to like the Philadelphia area. You know, if you don't want to go over to Vineland, New Jersey, it's the closest one to anything that's in the Philly area. That and Becky's in Walnutport.
Well, and I think we saw during COVID that it was really useful for people to be able to drive in someplace, and people could use the drive-in format for presentations and things.
Yeah, I loved the fact that out of the horribleness of what happened in the past year, there were some wins, and the fact that these, because every year you would see the numbers of drive-in movie theaters declining. And it's so heartbreaking. And then to see them not only kind of level off, but then increase because people were starting to open them up again. And I will say my husband and I did last fall maybe, we took a drive out to the Red Rabbit in Duncannon. And oh my gosh, you couldn't even get a parking space there because it was one of those things where you could be socially distant because you're like, the car was like a unit of measure, So if you were in your car with your tray of food and somebody else was there with their tray of food, you were a nice distance away,
So someone just mentioned Harr's Drive-In in Dillsburg. The long story there is that place was up for sale once before, and Giant Food Store bought it to keep the Walmart from coming in. But Giant decided to sell it again just recently, and an investor bought it so it can continue to operate. Yeah. So that is a great story. And also sort of unusual drive-in is that during COVID, the Rivers of Steel Heritage area created a drive-in at the Kerry Furnaces. So, I mean, very interesting place to be socially distant. And
yeah.
In fact, they hosted the sort of Eastern Democratic Convention there at the Kerry Drive-In. So they were projecting it up on the screen.
That's so cool.
Yes. So lots of ideas. People have asked for lists, so we will connect with you to get sort of a quick list of everything you mentioned tonight. Yeah. And I think we should also, crowdsource this with other ideas. I mean, one per county, not enough.
I know. I was thinking trying to pick the one puppy out of the litter, because there was, it's like they're all cute and you have room in your heart for all of them. But please, I would be talking until midnight if I was including all the places that I love.
Well, and I put a mention of this in the chat, but if people didn't see it, please use the hashtag LegacyLovePA when you find places that are great legacy businesses. They've been in a same family for 3 generations or more, or in the same location for 50 years or more, and that helps get the word out. You can follow the hashtag and we'll try and keep track of that and share some of the awesome ones.
Yeah. And only because it was included in the comments do I say my local place. Someone just mentioned they just discovered Tropical Treat, which is where I live. I live in Hanover, and Tropical Treat's right down the road. So definitely
There's a comment that you'd love to see the ones in the Philly area. You should check Maud Betty's website and get her 2 books. One's Philadelphia. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So any place from Philly, I've got some New Jersey books, but we're talking about PA today. But yes, Philadelphia, and then the Philly, the counties around Philadelphia, because there's so many places. But yeah, hopefully someday I'll cover them all. I realized if I started to do the state of Pennsylvania, I'd be writing the book till I was of a retirement age.
thank you all for joining us and for providing so many great ideas and comments and stories to share. We want to, we're going to talk about this for a little longer. You're going to see some of these things on our social media posts, and we love for you to share these stories, because that's how, I have to say, it's honestly the best part of my job, because never do I go to one destination. I may only have one destination in mind, but I was off to see the lockkeeper's house in Juniata County and said, whoa, there's a drive-in. Let's stop and take a look at it. So
yeah, and that's the fun of it, and I don't want to me, the fun of it is discovering. So I also get excited when I don't want to be like, here they all are and there's nothing else left. I'm always hoping that around the corner, there's going to be that wow factor of like, I'll never forget when I saw the Roxy Theater in Northampton. I was blown away, and I literally parked across the street and waited to see if they would turn on the lights, and then they did. And I was like, oh, I called my husband. I said, I'm not coming home. I'm going to go see a movie because this movie theater is too amazing. And yeah, I saw some goofy movie, but in a glorious movie theater, it was great. Yeah. Oh, cool. I love reading the comments, everybody. So keep this up and just let this inspire you to kind of go out and look at your own area with new eyes and see if some of these places might be hidden in plain sight right near where you are, and not only love them up and tell them about them, but oh my gosh, just spend your money there, because that's the only way they survive as businesses. I have a low bank account and a high scale sometimes for the fact that I'm buying more food than I need, but it's all for the greater good, because these are the kind of places that we want to see survive, so that when we're in our own areas or traveling, that it's not all just boring chains. Yeah.
And what you said earlier, it's great to let them know that that's why you're stopping in there too, because I think that helps encourage them and keeps the place.
They can make the connection between businesses coming in because I have this cool thing, and they realize, as opposed to being a detriment and they look outdated, that it's an actual business asset. They're more likely to keep it, keep it going.
And thanks everybody for coming.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Beth, so much.
Of course, thank you for having me. This is delightful.
Happy summer adventures, everybody.